As a New Yorker, Gavin, you're in cabs, you see all the ads on the subways. What do you think of the propaganda? Because I know what I see when I get into a cab. I mean, one was like De Blasio, like banging on a trash can. They were doing some sort of like budget version of Stomp, like we're cleaning up the city, and he's like, what are you handing a push broom to a crackhead? Like is this big grandiose? I don't know if you've seen this subway ad, but it's comical, and like it's always something in the taxi cab, in the taxi ads, that's like, it's like nonstop propaganda. Like I was like, if I was a cabbie, I would fucking be suicidal having listened to
There's
this
a
all day.
ton. Like, the city has this massive budget just to put out these stupid ads all the time, that they hire like some like recent grad from NYU to make some like stupid thing they think is artsy. And it's all over the place. I mean, not even like the city ads. I mean, you saw that video of that woman, that Asian woman on the subway ripping down.
I loved that. I loved that big Asian lady.
Good for her, because those ads were disgusting, and that was just, I just felt it's just such forced propaganda, and it's just meant to like first repulse you and then like make it normal for you, and it's so in your face, and it's all over, and the subways are the worst. I mean, corporate and state propaganda. Same thing with the taxis and wherever. It is all over the place. Even like, I don't even have cable, but when I turn on like to watch YouTube or to watch some like OTT television with whatever, my smart TV, I'm getting constantly like the city ads to get vaccinated. I literally watch Italian cooking videos, so they'll start giving me the ad in Italian. So it's like a New York City get vaccinated ad in Italian. That's how much they're pushing it. They're like translating it into any language, but it's overwhelming. But good for that woman for like ripping them down and calling it out. That takes balls on the subway to do. And I'm glad people are standing up, because a lot of people just put their head down. They just act like it's normal, or they pretend it's not happening. And then it becomes normal. And then it becomes the standard, the default. And then we're living in a world where we're masking children. We're all masked 24/7 on our 7th booster shot, because no one wanted to call a spade and call this nonsense out. So,
Right, because if we could turn back the clock to when they first said 2 weeks to slow the spread, and if you could give would have done something sooner.
I totally you froze for like 30 seconds.
Oh no. Okay, I'm saying, like, if we could rewind back to March of 2020 and you could see how things are now, especially like globally in Australia, you would be like, "Oh, I think we would be a lot more motivated to put our foot down right out the gate."
Well, yeah, because they do everything incrementally, and first they scare you and they terrorize you. And I was a victim of it. I remember when it started in March and February of 2020. I remember seeing videos of people just passing out, seizing, all sorts of stuff. And I thought, it came out of a Chinese lab. I think it's scary. I'm going to take it serious. And then we learned more, and we realized it wasn't what they claimed it to be. And then we readjusted, and we realized we shouldn't really be scared of this thing. So they do things incrementally. They push it out bit by bit, because they know you can't just do it all at once, or there'll be a bigger pushback. But slowly over time, they make things, these insane things what would have been insane a year or two ago, they normalize it. Like what happened in Australia, it didn't happen overnight. That was methodologically implemented over the span of almost 2 years, slowly but surely. And then they were sparsed out in between, with periods where they give you a little more freedom, they give you back some rights, and then they quickly take them away again. And people are starting to be conditioned. It's a mix of like a mass psychosis with all the fear being put out by the media, and then they're conditioning you. They're saying, okay, well, if you start to listen to us and you do the right things, we'll start to give you things back slowly. It's like Pavlov's dog. They're giving you treats here and there, and they're rewarding the people that are loyal. So if you start to just accept it and go along with it, whether it's the vax mandate or the masks or whatever, then you can get bits of your old life back. So it's psychotic. It's very scary, and it just goes to show. Had you told me in 2019 what we're seeing in Australia, and you showed me a video, I've been like, oh, you're crazy. This is out of like a science fiction movie. It's like not real. There's no way that could happen in a place like Australia. Why would they be arresting and beating a guy up just for leaving his house and not being close enough to his house? I mean, that's crazy. And here we are. We're in that position now, and we're not far off in the US or anywhere else in the world. So, these things, you got to be vigilant. You got to push back the second it starts. And I give credit where credit's due, because a lot of people did come out from the beginning and said the lockdowns are BS. I was not one of them, but there were people that came out and said, this is BS. We can't give an inch. And they were right. They were 100% right, because it opened the door, and now we're paying the price for it.
So you weren't saying it out the gate that the lockdowns are BS. What was your sort of moment or rock bottom, or like, oh, fuck, like, when did you realize?
I mean, I bought the 15 days to slow the spread. I was like, okay, look, if there's going to be a massive surge, yeah, let's just stay home for a bit. And it seemed like more of a voluntary thing at first. Like, we're recommending you stay home. And then it became more, the state was literally saying, no, you can't go out. You can't do this. You can't do that. When I saw what COVID was actually like, and I started to see real data that showed that it was really not what it was portrayed to be at first. They were trying to make it seem like it was like SARS, just more infectious, which has like a 20% mortality rate, like something crazy. And once I saw that data was not what they claimed it to be, and then once I also realized, hey, there are therapeutics, hydrochloroquine, all these other things, it was slow, but at a certain point I was like, okay, this is all nonsense, and this is all getting purposely being pushed out. And I think it was like that for a lot of people. And I think it was also like that for those in power, because at first they probably didn't know. And then they actually realized, oh, it's not a big deal, but we can make money off of this. We can use this to our advantage. So I think it was I don't think it was this planned thing from the get-go, but I think it was definitely, once it came out, they took advantage of it, and they've exacerbated it, and they've used it to expand their power and make more money. And then also having it, once I had COVID and I got over it, and I knew people that had it and got over it, it became less and less of this far away, scary thing, and it came closer to home, and you're able to, see it and rationalize it more. But that's what they don't want. They just want you isolated, alone, scared, dependent, because then you're easy to control. But if you have any, sense to do otherwise, then you're, an anti-vaxxer and a terrorist.
Yeah. I'm so blown away every time I see any kind of New York City propaganda, because it's incessant. It's like, even if your train comes right away, you've seen probably four kind of vaccine ads. And like, they still have like, oh, wearing the mask, it's not for you, it's for others. You have to be polite. Like, they tie it all into being polite. And it's like, once you learn how closely this mirrors like communist social credit score, it's so gross to see that creeping in.
It's groupthink and conformity. Like, they want you to be scared to even step out of line or be embarrassed, and they want the mob and the crowd to shame you. So most of the people enforcing this new way of life is your fellow citizens, your fellow train car passengers. I mean, they're all, marching in lockstep, because they want to be, they want to get patted on the head. They want to get more social credit, even though it's not on an app yet, but they want to get it in kind of like, an ethereal sense from their fellow travelers, no pun intended. So that's why it's getting pushed out, because no one wants to be the odd man out. No one wants to stand up against it. And they realize that, and they realize most people are just trying to go along to get along. And that's the best weapon for these would-be, I don't even know what they are. These totalitarians, I think, is the best way.
Yeah. I think it was Jordan Peterson who used the example of zebras, like their stripes are the way that they are. Like, when they're by themselves, they stick out like a sore thumb, but when they're all together, you can't pick out one from the whole herd. And there's a lot to be said, like the similarities in groupthink and how human beings really don't want to be singled out, and just how powerful shame is.
Yep.
And I was so happy to see that based Asian lady tearing down the OkCupid ads, because every time I'm on the subway, I look around, I am always the only one not wearing a mask, and I just don't give a fuck. But I know that comes from like years of doing stand-up comedy and putting myself out there and like running towards sometimes looking foolish. But like, as I've gotten older, I've become less non-confrontational. So I'm more, and especially with this particular issue, I don't give a fuck. And I like just being this living example of like, hey, I'm not like a homeless crackhead. Like, I'm a regular, the healthy looking lady. I wasn't in the city, obviously, when I had like COVID. I was like, staying put. But like, hey, I'm just like a regular chick not wearing a mask. Like, I like to I think it's good to set an example. And if you make one person go, huh, okay, yeah, I guess she's not being yelled at. All right, I guess this is an option now.
No, you give other people courage. Like one person stands up than others, because a lot of people, they'll go along with it because they're scared, but they don't actually believe it. They're not true believers. There is a segment, like a percentage, like the crazy, real true believers, like the crazy Karens, like those people. Like, yeah, they've bought everything hook, line, and sinker. They love it. It gives them power. It gives them something. But I think most people are either being shamed or scared into compliance. And when they see people break ranks like you or whoever, or the Asian lady, they're going to feel more courage to do the same. And it becomes like a cascade effect. That's why they have to constantly, push out the propaganda and pump it. It has to be everywhere, in your face. It has to get more aggressive. It has to get more repulsive. And they can't let off for a second, because then, things are going to have to return to equilibrium and people are going to push back. So they're, the people that are pushing for this stuff are in like a constant rat race, because the second they even start to let off a bit in terms of, this constant state of fear and pushing for all these restrictions, then it's just going to be a domino effect where people are just going to start to really push back. And I think we're starting to see that. I mean, even places like, in Europe, in France, they've been protesting every day with like 100,000 people in the streets of Paris. I mean, of course, no one's covering it because they don't want to show that there is like a vast world out there of people who disagree with this. They want to make you feel like you're the minority and that you're the crazy weirdo for disagreeing. But there is massive protests going on across the world of people pushing back against it. And the more they do, I mean, now the next thing they're going to do is saying, oh, you may be fully vaccinated, but you still need to get the boosters and you still need to wear the mask. So even the people that got vaccinated, now they're going to just be like, well, screw this. Like, they're just going to keep losing people. So I think that's maybe the white pill, that eventually they're just going to push it too far and they're going to overplay their hand. But I don't know. People continue to go along.